Hey everybody, welcome to What the Future's Intelligence issue. Thank you all for coming out. AI is an enormous topic, so we've chosen to zero in on one central tension we'll talk about a lot. The tension is driving the human side of AI adoption. There are concerns and opportunities, big and small, but this is our biggest issue ever, and you're our largest crowd ever. We've got folks here from pretty much every industry, from CPG to financial services, from auto to streaming, even a competitor or two. Welcome in. I'm Matt Carmichael, head of the Trends and Foresight Lab and editor of WTF. I usually start this out with some sort of personal anecdote or song lyric or something. Wowie, this issue is jam-packed, so let's dive right in. As a speaker, you always hope people will remember your big takeaway. This isn't my big takeaway exactly, but this is what you're all going to walk away and remember. It's my favorite acronym ever, next to WTF itself. It's PICNIC. PICNIC is used by tech support folks to dismiss a problem that's beyond their scope. It stands for Problem in Chair, Not in Computer. It's relevant when thinking about humans will or won't adopt and accept a new technology like AI. Technology often works beautifully. Humans, not so much. Which isn't to say that there aren't still problems in the computer too. This is an AI-generated image of a doctor performing a mental health exam we had created as part of a research project we were working on. Among other details in this super creepy montage, the doctor's eyeballs are made out of teeth. That's not okay. But anyway, humans need a reason to adopt new technology. It needs to solve a problem or align with something humans value, like saving time or adding convenience or creating entertainment. AI can do all of those things. That's the wonder of AI. It's already changing the way we do things. My team used AI in 20 or 30 ways to create this issue, from our cover model, whom we named Eileen, to the music clip you heard at the top of the webinar, to the fact that you're watching me make really great eye contact right now on this part of the webinar, which is actually recorded. We generated question ideas and headline options using our new internal tool, Ipsos Facto, which is a walled garden version of ChatGPT and some other tools. All of this is relevant here because humans also value safety, economic security, and privacy. AI can threaten each of those. That's the worry of AI. The wonder and the worry comprise the central tension we'll explore in this issue. Being pragmatic, we're going to assume AI tools will continue to flourish. We'll talk about how brands and tech companies can play a role in helping nudge people toward the wonder by developing these tools responsibly and keeping in mind that humans have to buy into AI for it to achieve the full marvel of all these new tools. If humans lean into the wonder, many things are possible that would otherwise be difficult to achieve. However, there are already warning signs in the data. And we're live. I'm curious if you think the eye contact thing was awesome or creepy, but my goal was to use as many AI tools as possible while making this. Now back to the data. At the moment, we find worry on the rise. In a recent global study, Ipsos found a sharp increase in worry among residents of 24 countries surveyed in July 2023, trended from just 18 months earlier, registering an average increase of 13 percentage points. One worry that is fueling that is related to jobs. With the explosive growth of artificial intelligence, people's worries about AI have spiked in global markets. On average, 57% of workers expect AI to change the way they do their current job, and 36% expect it to replace their current job. That's not like I lose my job and I get another one doing kind of the same thing. That's my entire career evaporates. These are personal, existential worries. Interestingly, North Americans are among the least likely among the global regions to hold this sentiment. The media that people watch plays a part. Those who watch Fox News are more likely to say they see negative media coverage of AI than those who watch CNN or MSNBC, according to the Ipsos Consumer Tracker. One of the best examples of worry comes courtesy of the US military. A news story circulated that an AI drone had gone rogue and killed its human operator during a simulation. Turns out that wasn't true, but the reason why it wasn't true was chilling. A military officer said, "We've never run that experiment, nor would we need to in order to realize that this is a plausible outcome." Huh. But all this technology is brand new. It's 1995 on the web all over again. There's still time to move the needle if we develop these tools responsibly, ethically, and without bias. We can build trust and assuage human fears along the way. But responsibility, ethics, and bias are each large hurdles, and that's true for B2B as well as B2C applications. Each requires gauging where humans are today and what their outlook is for tomorrow. Humans, the people in chairs, matter to technology as much, if not more so, than if the computer itself works. AI is capable of wondrous seeing things if we can get past our worries. It's already all around us, acting as our co-pilots, and it's easy to use. But it's likely to be a bumpy road for the next several years. Because it's good to remember that no matter how well things work, humans still need to be reminded to check their cables and reboot from time to time. So, how are we going to talk about AI today? Our agenda for this webinar follows a tool we use in Foresight called a domain map. For WTF planning purposes, which we call editorial foresight, we keep it broad and talk about the future of intelligence. We'll come at that from a lot of perspectives. We'll talk about the tech itself, ethics, how it's used in healthcare. We'll talk about its impacts on the economy and institutions. And finally, we'll go in depth on the job situation. In an actual foresight project for a client, we would zero in the center on a specific business question. But here, again, we're going to kind of keep it general. Along the way, you'll hear from our America in Flux participants. And at the end, I will have an awesome announcement for you all. Both in client work and in WTF work, one way we think about the future is with expert interviews, and we have an incredible slate to introduce today. You'll hear from Meta's Nicole Alexander and Cisco's Annie Hardy. From BlackRock Neurotech, the company doing brain-computer interfaces today, we'll talk to Taryn Southern. You'll hear from Dr. Q Ree, Adobe's Chris Duffy, Microsoft's Ginny Badanes, and Salesforce's Peter Schwartz, one of the OG futurists. When we think about the future at Ipsos here, we always think about it in terms of our framework for the theory of change. On the left, we're thinking about the macro forces, those huge tectonic plates that cause shifts in our demographics and our economy. On the right, we're thinking of the signals we see in the news every day. We are always reading broadly and deeply, and as futurists, our spidey sense is sometimes telling us this is probably going to mean something somewhere. We don't necessarily know what. We get that little inkling that that's a signal that we should be paying attention to. And in the center, we are always thinking about the humans, the shifts in society and markets and people. All of this work is bedrock work for our work in trends and foresight when we're thinking about the drivers of change. And all of that work underlies everything we do here. And with that, let's dive into the full issue. We start with artificial intelligence having the potential to change every aspect of how people live. The question is whether those changes are helpful or harmful. What, if anything, should we do now to maximize AI's benefits and reduce its risks? Nicole Alexander has been tackling these questions as Global Head of Marketing at Meta and as a Professor of Marketing and Technology at New York University. She believes that making smart decisions about AI now could make its potential better for all of us in the future. Most people don't realize how AI is influencing their daily lives or how it could. Evolving uses could be transformational, like curing diseases, or convenient, like asking your smart speaker for the weather. Where true potential lies is combining multiple data to solve problems, like helping you manage your diet. For example, AI can combine health data that you track with convenience tools like menu plans and meal prep, with your preventative measures like pre-existing conditions, says Nicole Alexander. She says, having systems in place that can collect massive data more than you or I could ever do manually, and then make recommendations on how to optimize your life provides not only convenience, but also longevity and healthiness. Nicole talked to managing editor Kate MacArthur about nostalgia and how it only exists if something is in the past. She doesn't want to go back to a pre-AI time because the conveniences are already so ingrained in her life. Here's what she told us.
There are so many improvements to our day-to-day lives based on AI and the convenience that it affords, not to even talk about the advancements in areas such as biotech and health advancements in medicines to help everything from Alzheimer's to, again, the future of cancer research, which is more of a fall off, well, hopefully closer than we think. But the immediacy that we see every day, I think because AI seeps into society, which can also be a hindrance, it seeps into society in such a fast and under the radar way that it changes our behavior, it changes our expectations as a society in both a slow and fast way, where we don't necessarily think of it as AI, we just think of it as the net new.
A recent Ipsos survey found that 16% of Americans say they've used a text-based or visual generative AI solution, such as ChatGPT, DALL-E, or Bard. While these users may be early adopters, an Ipsos segmentation found that their interests vary widely, from optimizers who are using generative AI and investigators who want a better source of information, to creators who look for creative tools and inspiration. Successful brands build their product strategy around the needs of their audience. But when it comes to generative AI, a technology with dizzyingly broad appeal, there's no one type of user and no one type of use. Brands will need to understand how different segments think about and engage with generative AI in order to build useful solutions and relevant messaging, says Kim Berndt, a Senior Vice President in Ipsos's Market Strategy and Understanding team. She says, as AI technology is integrated more deeply into our lives, it will be essential for brands to know the unique needs of their audience. As a futurist for Cisco Systems, Annie Hardy's work is focused on the future of trust, the internet, expertise, and work. When she thinks about artificial intelligence, she sees trust as a core issue. How do we build trust with each other? How do we build trust with customers? How do we build trust in a world where we can't believe what we see or hear? The answer is tricky, and the stakes couldn't be higher. And an off-sided problem with AI and trust is that AI has a representation problem. Partially, there weren't diverse enough voices in the room where AI was built, and the data it's trained on have biases. People often blame the lack of a pipeline for a diverse workforce. AI's strength might help us overcome its weaknesses and lead to a more diverse workforce in the process, Hardy says. She says, quote, with the rise of the low-code, no-code movement, we can get people who aren't necessarily experts at math to be part of the data science or the artificial intelligence pipeline. People that see companies and platforms as playing a big role in ensuring fairness and protecting jobs. To do that, AI has to be accurate and unbiased. Having diverse voices at the table will go a long way toward building that needed trust. All of this comes down to a theme you'll hear a lot today about the responsible development of AI. Hardy says that's an ethos, not a universal one, but it's going to be crucial to getting the humans on board. Here's what she told me when we chatted.
When we look at companies doing responsible innovation and responsible AI, I think this is an ethos. And I think it goes back to trust. The problem with AI is that companies who are developing it are having to do it in a way that aligns with the promises they've made to Wall Street. And then you have companies who are working it into product. And I think that there's absolutely a place to move forward. The revenue potential is getting in the way of companies making ethical choices. I think that's the way technology's always been. One ethos is we're going to make you money, we're going to move fast, we're going to lead the way, we're going to bring innovation to people. That's great, that's an ethos, right? But we're going to do this responsibly. That's a different one. There is a middle ground where you can do both, but right now it feels like we're seeing two totally different ones.
To that end, Ipsos has developed a framework that can guide ethical development. And if you saw my inbox on a daily basis, you'd see that this is a topic my CEO is very passionate about. So I'm going to share another acronym, FAST. It's about how people want AI tools to be developed, according to Ipsos research. They want it fair, accountable, secure, and transparent. In other words, AI without bias that allows for the developers to be responsible for their work, for data to be and privacy to be protected, and for it to be clear when and how AI is used. Product testing will be essential. A lack of guards against some of the most significant sources of AI risk can represent an existential risk for organizations, says Lorenzo Larini, CEO of Ipsos North America. He says the FAST framework builds in precautions that will help people feel safe in using AI without sacrificing speed. Public perception on all of this is shifting quickly, and now is the time to act and measure. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that these are things that Ipsos is wrestling with too. We're working on a UX framework for testing FAST. We've developed our own walled garden version of ChatGPT and other generative tools that we can put client data in and not have to have it cross-pollinate because of the S in FAST. Synthesio just launched Genia, an insights detection engine focused on key use cases such as innovation whitespace identification, market exploration, and consumer trend discovery. Ipsos is using AI to make sure our survey samples are humans and not AI. We're using generative AI in qual and quant, from the Aura transcription and summarization services to uses in innovation. We're always keeping the humans and researchers in the loop. In short, Ipsos is creating a lot of new products and services, but doing it fast. Our next expert is hard to tie down to just one job or even one career. Terrence Southern is a former American Idol semifinalist, a YouTube star, creator of the first pop album composed with artificial intelligence 5 years ago. And she's now helping explain one of the most complicated technologies in the world, brain-computer interfaces, developed by BlackRock Neurotech. These experimental tools are helping people today who have neurodegenerative diseases and conditions regain some lost function. She has a front row seat to the future, she says, and here's what she sees from that view. Brain-computer interfaces, BCIs, are being used with a small number of people with neurological disorders to help them eat, move objects, and even create art. The science is not new, yet it's still nascent. Ethics has to be at the center of everything, she says. Quote, we're highlighting the very human-centric ways that this technology is improving lives and showing the real people that are using this technology. She thinks the AI community can learn a lot about how that work helps build trust. Because right now, the dystopian narratives have a real megaphone, but we need to give the people who are being affected positively by AI a voice too, she says. When we chatted, she told me that AI is hitting some of the same ethical challenges that brain-computer interfaces did, but BCIs have had the luxury of time and necessity when it comes to an ethics ethos. Here's what she told me.
It's the exact same thing. We have not hit anything close to a critical mass. We're talking about several dozen patients who are in very isolated, very controlled research studies at institutions that have dedicated IRB boards. In those labs, ethics is the #1 component of constructing these studies. We've had the time to really approach it, I think, in a responsible manner, and we're continuing to do so. These are not questions that are going to work themselves out overnight. And a lot of it also depends on how society integrates with the technology.
In the 5 years since What the Future first interviewed Dr. Curie on the impact of artificial intelligence in healthcare, the technology has boomed. In that time, Dr. Ree has moved from Chief Health Officer at IBM Watson to Chief Medical Officer at CVS Health, and he's just joined the National Association of Community Health Centers as its president and CEO. Over time, his views on AI have only become more firm. Humans plus AI are the key to making healthcare more efficient, effective, equitable, and a better experience. A new wrinkle has emerged in the healthcare field as AI has spread. Patients are using their own health research with AI. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, unless patients start to trust the AI over the recommendations of their providers, says Dr. Ree, who also holds a master's degree in health policy. While AI can list all the drugs for a condition or their prices or other facts, healthcare is about more than knowledge, he contends. He says, the AI algorithm will only know what it's taught, and there is so much that's not teachable in data, and there's so much that's not in the data. Still, this is another area where he believes AI plus humans will be better than humans alone, if it's transparent how the AI is being used and providers are guiding the process. The next step is for providers and healthcare tech to create systems for doing that. Dr. Ree is bullish on the wonder of AI in healthcare with one main caveat, and it's a caveat that works in both ways and involves trust. As we've seen in some recent studies, doctors have to trust the AI as well as the patients. Here's what Dr. Ree told Kate MacArthur.
Any new technology, you want to be sensitive to its history, its biases, and its potential applications. I don't think, as some have stated, that AI inevitably will lead to the destruction of our health system or anything like that. I'm on the more optimistic side of AI, that once again, AI can play an important role in supporting trust brokering with a patient and provider by letting the provider do what they're best at, human relationships, compassion, abstract thinking, and allow the AI to do what it's best at, pattern recognition, natural language processing, reducing administrative tasks. So my belief and hope is AI can be used to make the health system more effective and more efficient and more equitable and have a better experience. Now, what I do worry about is if we start to trust the AI more than we trust the humans, that is not where we want to go.
Today, countless people rely on forums, social media, and other platforms to research and discuss their health and medical conditions. These communities have been a wealth of information, not only for patients, but also for healthcare providers. When brands are aware of patients' symptoms, frustrations, and lived experiences, they can answer their unmet needs. And when brands better understand physicians' digital behaviors, they can more effectively engage them online. Generative AI tools, however, are already transforming these digital behaviors, says Ashwin Balasubramanian, an expert in digital ecosystem mapping with Ipsos Healthcare Systems. As the online patient journey evolves, it will be critical for brands to understand how generative AI tools influence patient decisions and behaviors. Then, healthcare brands can more effectively position themselves as trustworthy sources of information for consumers and providers, he says. Quote, brands will need an understanding of emerging information sources, their accuracy, and their downstream impact on patient health decisions. The explosion of artificial intelligence developments, specifically generative AI, has created hope and fear for people, especially creatives, about how it could affect their work and their livelihoods. Chris Duffy, strategic development for Adobe Creative Cloud, thinks professions of all kinds will benefit from viewing AI as a co-pilot. A strategic futurist, Duffy speaks from experience. He credits AI as his co-author for his 2019 book, Superhuman Innovation, on how AI could revolutionize business. While some workers have already lost their jobs to AI, Duffy sees more benefits than threats. We'll hear this theme a lot today. Generative AI will free people for innovation by handling repetitive tasks, he says. Duffy says AI can enable Web3 principles such as co-ownership and co-monetization, which address creatives' concerns about their intellectual property won't be attributed to them. For its part, Adobe has launched Firefly, a generative AI toolset for creatives. The Firefly Enterprise offering includes responsibly trained creative generative AI models and indemnification for business. When he talked to Kate, he echoes some of the themes from Dr. Ree, who's from a very different professional field. Here's what he had to say.
I believe with 100% certainty we're entering into the golden age of creativity. So we've seen in the last few years how AI is getting that grunt work out of the way. Most people do not get into their jobs out of love for doing repetitive, low cognitive tasks. And so that's where AI excels and can really speed up things to allow what people do best. We do critical thinking, we do higher level problem solving, we're creators, we're innovators, and so on. And quite confident that is where we're going. It's a natural evolution of the creative process. And when I talk about creativity, I really use that in terms of being a creator, whether that is creating business growth, whether that's being for innovation purposes, whether that's if you're a designer. It's a very broad definition of creativity, meaning we're entering this era of the creator economy, essentially.
It's getting only easier to imagine a world where AI is used to churn out thousands of advertising assets for marketers each year. AI tools already have the potential to speed up evaluation tasks. But what AI offers in efficiency, it lacks in human empathy, understanding, and originality. These factors make all the difference for in-market effectiveness, says Rachel Rogers, a senior vice president in Ipsos's creative excellence team. She says, context, culture, and creativity, which drive advertising relevance, can only be identified by real people, and likely will be for some time. But that doesn't mean AI won't help ads to get to market faster. By using AI tools to automate some creative and measurement tasks, marketers can streamline their workflow, leaving more time and focus for the human creativity that drives breakthrough campaigns. So I said that my team used a lot of different AI tools in creating this issue. One was an experiment about WTF itself. See, one of the stubborn challenges of qualitative research, or journalism, is summarizing interview transcripts into usable insights. And that's an issue we face when we're editing What the Future, how to take a 9,000-word transcript and pull out the best parts from an interview. And it turns out AI can help here too. We used Aura AI, a new tool from Xperity, for that. Ipsos acquired the startup specializing in B2B research in 2023. We fed the entire catalog of 200 plus What the Future expert interviews into the AI's closed beta. Then Aura AI distilled the insights and performed a horizontal analysis across the summaries. It quickly drew out key trends and futures outlooks and summarized them into just a few pages. It identified patterns and insights across diverse sectors that we've covered, including the challenges of and potential of plant-based proteins, the potential of the metaverse and luxury brands' role in it, and AR as an engaging and immediate marketing tool. With this kind of AI, researchers can organize and share their collective knowledge faster, says Yadin Sofer, the CEO of Xperity. He says, by changing how teams access their qual data, AI can improve how companies track and design new research, identifying patterns and see opportunities for new areas of study. One question that gets asked a lot is, can't we use AI to fight disinformation rather than just create it? And of course, the answer is yes. Jenny Badanes leads a program at Microsoft called Democracy Forward. It's working to use technology to protect democratic institutions like elections, campaigns, promote civic engagement, and defend against disinformation. Like Cisco's Annie Hardy, Badanes thinks a lack of trust in institutions is a key issue plaguing us today, and it could get worse in the future. She looks back to the dawn of social media and thinks we were focused too much then on the upside wonder and not enough on the potential downstream worries. We might be overcorrecting when it comes to AI, she says. She says, quote, we need to learn to not to worry more, but to find the balance. Let's also consider what are not just the short-term concerns we have, of which I recognize there are many, but what are the longer-term concerns? It's not too late for us to be able to figure them out and put guardrails in place, she says. Those guardrails will need to be a shared responsibility of companies and governments, and yes, people bear responsibility to be more critical consumers of information too. She gave a great example of email spam. In the early days, there was tons, and it included scams, and people were really sending money to fake Nigerian princes. That's not just a meme. It wasn't great, but it's gotten a lot better through a combination of factors. Again, it's a shared responsibility in action. Here's what she told me.
We've all been trained and learned when to scroll over a URL and make sure that it's really going where it says. We, again, to use the Nigerian prince example, we know that's a common theme people use and that we shouldn't fall for it. So I have a responsibility as a consumer of those, or as a receiver of those emails, to think twice and use some practical, thought practice before opening an email or an attachment. Now, I didn't do that on my own. I was taught that. So there were tools out there. There were lessons, there's training, curriculum. That's, again, a shared responsibility of companies, of governments, of nonprofits, civil society, to train people to look out for that. And in the end, with all of that shared responsibility, we've gotten to a place where spam is manageable, but it has not disappeared. So I think it's a similar practice when it comes to disinformation defense and getting us to a place where it's manageable. There are government responsibilities, there are technology company responsibilities, there's civil society responsibilities and employers on training their employees, and then there is the consumer side of things where we should be more critical consumers of information.
It's not often you get to talk to one of the people who literally created your profession, but Peter Schwartz is one of the OG futurists. His resume includes not only the legendary forecast by Shell International that launched foresight as a business discipline, but also consulting on the 1983 techno-thriller film War Games. Now at Salesforce, he's contemplating how artificial intelligence will shape the workforce of the future. He's mostly positive and thinks the biggest changes will be in the reduction of friction of everyday life, both at work and at home. The idea of friction is one Schwartz keeps coming back to, that AI can't solve all your work or home tasks, but it can make them easier. He sees this as a time saver and a productivity boost. AI, he says, will act as an assistant helping with the day-to-day. He says, quote, with AI, everybody's now got a smart research assistant, and soon they'll have a smart executive assistant that takes the friction out of a lot of banal tasks. I'm near the top of a large company, he says. I have help, but 99% of people don't, and now they will. When it works with people, it will make people more productive, he says. People hope they will find AI useful at work and at home, but they also fear it's coming for your jobs. This is a central tension of the issue. And he too gave a topical historical example.
The analogy that I like is if you think back to, say, the 1950s, if you went to a bank or an insurance company, for example, and you went to the back room, what you found was a room full of women typists. And the women were typing bank statements or insurance forms and so on. You wanted your bank account statement, a woman sat at a desk and typed on a typewriter that statement. That's how it actually works. You put a form in, filled out the form. Yep. It took a long time. It took a lot of labor to produce each statement. Then by the late 1950s and early 60s, we were suddenly getting mainframe computers as being able to do those in a heartbeat, right? They could turn out 10,000 statements in 10 seconds. And all those jobs of those women went away, and we don't miss them for a moment. So what happened to those women? Two things. One, they did other jobs in the banks, like bank tellers, because the banks grew. They made more money. They expanded more services and so on. They became executives and people in the bank. The others, the economy grew and they got other jobs in that economy and so on as the service economy grew. And I think that's what keeps happening. We're in one of those moments.
Hey, it's me. I'm back. And this time, I'm live. Still really curious about the whole eye contact thing and if that's creepy, but I'm actually just looking into the camera at the moment. So all of that is true, what he was just saying, but I think there's an issue with that yes, change is going to come, but that process of change is probably going to be painful for many. And the whole issue around jobs and security is one of the central tensions of this issue. We're going to talk about a couple more just now. And when we think about these tensions, we ask them in each issue of What the Future as a forced choice question. Do you want this future or that future? And when we think about that, we think about how those things can change. It's something we can measure now today. It's something we can track through tomorrow. And it's something that as these futures shift, we can start to think about what these tension lines mean and what moving in one direction for another will mean for which plausible scenario we're headed for. So here are 5 key tensions that we are going to keep an eye on. Tension 1 is the worry and the wonder. And all the tensions in the issue of what the future really flow from this one. We will be comfortable living in the AI age, enjoying all the potential new conveniences, safer roads, productivity, and creativity that AI tools promise, or will we become mired in fear if AI leads to job losses, economic and power shifts, and more rapid change? At the moment, we're about 2 to 1 on the worry side. And the answer moving forward will lie partially in how the media spins these changes and partially in how these tools are developed. Tension 2, when you think about the worries about artificial intelligence, job ranks among the most primal and immediate. We've already seen headlines about job losses. Perhaps that's true in the short term, but Cisco's Annie Hardy and Salesforce's Peter Schwartz both point out we've seen labor disruptions, and they've always led to more jobs, not fewer. We were an agrarian society, we became a manufacturing society, we became a service-driven and knowledge-driven economy. So keep an eye on these tensions. It feels like this one could be bouncy instead of linear in the next several years. Tension 3, do we trust the AI developers or not? Trust is obviously a recurring theme in this issue, and there are concerns about software like generative AI tools hallucinating bad data or creating images of people with too many fingers or teeth for eyeballs. There are issues with users like disinformation, specialists creating fake news images and passing them off as real events. And AI technologists in many realms are being deployed with a lack of transparency about its data sources or training. This tension will likely persist until these problems get sorted or regulated. Tension 4, will AI be developed and deployed equitably? There's no shortage of research about the various biases in AI today, and people aren't confident that it's going to get better. But it's early. Developers and the markets that influence them must make this a priority. And finally, tension 5. Is AI going to make our life better or worse? Despite all our rising worries, we still think AI is making things better today. And that's where Adobe's Chris Duffy thinks we'll net out in the future. He says, I tend to gravitate toward a more protopian narrative where technology is introducing incremental changes to our lives. So far, AI is mostly being used behind the scenes in our daily lives. So it's fair to wonder who the 45% of people are who feel they're already being negatively affected by it. As we move forward, where we wind up on this tension line will matter, as will exactly who is saying life is better and who is saying life is worse. Now, if you've been to a WTF webinar before or read one of the issues, you can subscribe. It's free. We do these every month. I would usually go into a couple of plausible scenarios here based on our read of the tensions today. But I think we've covered a lot of ground already today, so we're going to close with a couple more features. Say we have a future where AI does come from our jobs. My colleague Trevor Sedano in Ipsos Strategy 3 takes the traditional jobs to be done framework and spins that forward with something we call future jobs to be done. This builds on the theory that people buy products and services to fulfill certain needs and accomplish specific tasks. For example, we don't buy body wash, we hire it to bathe and smell good. Foresight scenarios help us define the circumstances in which we may find ourselves, such as our employers encouraging us to use generative AI tools in our daily work. And we use future jobs to be done to tie these scenarios to actions that organizations can take today to help people meet future needs. While it's typical in Foresight to create clusters of future jobs to be done, we're sharing one scenario here as an example. So in a world where humans have to compete with AI, the skills we use to differentiate ourselves and the opportunities available to us will be different. Potential future jobs include help me understand which human skills are in the highest demand, help me learn new skills and advance my credentials, help me identify job opportunities for human-based intelligence. And we can imagine a world where online courses are focused on skills that are most likely to land you a job where AI has begun to take over some of the tasks. One last tool we use to think about the future in WTF is optimism gaps. We want a world where our data and privacy are safe, AI prevents disinformation, humans create our content, and our jobs and life are made easier. Sounds good, doesn't it? We ask these questions about the future we want most versus the future that seems most likely in each issue of WTF. And we often see this pattern of agreement in the futures we want, with large majorities of 70 or 80% agreeing on the future they want. But there's usually a gap between the future we want and the future we think is most likely. But usually we think we will at least wind up in the future we want. However, when it comes to AI, we are almost as sure that the future opposite of what we want will happen. So how, as a brand, can you help customers get to the future they want? How heroic would that be? But you can see in the data, there is wonder and worry of AI playing out right in front of us. If after all of this, you don't believe me or don't believe all this data, well, you have some trust issues too. But let some members of our longitudinal ethnography project, American Flux, put it in their own words. Qualitative research is a fantastic way to bring some of this data to life and also expand the representation of your research. Our American Flux participants were asked about AI, and these were their responses. Again, it's worry and wonder right through to the end.
I know A1 has to do with like artificial intelligence, like machines, computers, like smarter than humans. I don't know. I think it's a little weird.
You watch movies and you see it, but I didn't know like it was a thing that like engineers or whoever makes them. I don't even know who makes them. And I don't even know who's a them. Like, is it a machine?
Artificial intelligence uses a lot of your data to help you, but it's also like you could be susceptible to like data leaks.
Being breached and all of that.
Yeah. Like my Siri just started going off as we're talking. So
as an artist, someone who makes music and visual art, seeing what AI is doing to the art community and how it's often used to pretty directly steal particular artist styles and kind of rehash it. It's a very scary thing.
What should I do in London for 3 days? Oh, this goes in depth. I'm surprised about that. See, so maybe something like this is where I would use an AI software for.
I don't know. I'm so mixed about all of it. I'm excited and scared.
I love letting the voice of the people be the last word, but that's not fitting for this issue. Today, I want to leave you with the words from an AI. I asked ChatGPT to write something in the style of me. It tried, but then I asked it what it considered to be the style of Matt Carmichael, editor of WTF, and it said this: WTF is characterized by a focus on innovation and technology as driving forces in shaping the future of an industry. It highlights the potential for new and emerging technologies to bring about positive change and improvements in the field, while also considering the importance of sustainability and the need to address key challenges. This style of writing is forward-looking and optimistic, while also being grounded in data and research to support the predictions and insights offered. If that sounds like something you'd be into, please subscribe and you'll get one free email a month when the issue drops. And this month, we're going to do something special for subscribers. This issue is amazing and the data set behind it is so rich that we're going to do something we've never done before. So if you sign up like right now, we'll be emailing you a link to a gift from Ipsos to you. You won't want to miss it. Nor will you want to miss our next issues of What the Future on the future of cities and the future of war, a little companion to our earlier this year Future of Love. And nor will you want to miss a huge announcement we have to make about something going on later this year. So stay tuned. As always, I will end with this thought. We do these webinars to get you thinking about the future. And when you do that, when you think about the world 3, 5, 10 years from now, you can start to think about what products and innovation you'll need, what your CX or UX will look like. how you'll message to get there. So I always like to close with the fact that you should keep in foresight in all you do, because when you imagine possible tomorrows, you ask better questions today. Once again, I'm Matt Carmichael, editor of What the Future. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the future.